I guess probably the easiest thing to start. There's multiple things that we need to talk about, but it's probably the easiest to set up with the trade deadline recap, and probably the most annoyed that I've been on. I know that I complain about it a lot, but the most annoyed that I've been on X like all season was everybody's reaction to the Tay Adams shit, saying like, "Oh, like Las Vegas should just do him a solid and just trade him away," and this, that, and the third because he's unhappy. Well, bad news. He signed a 5-year, $140 million contract a year ago. He literally pretty much decided that that's where he wanted to end his career. The Raiders are at no liberty to trade him away. This isn't the NBA. And on top of it, there were some key moments in the game last night that I felt Tay was just kind of a no-show. I know that everybody's going to react to the overthrow at the end of the game, but the Raiders were absolutely in that football game around like the third. I don't remember the exact moment, but it was the third quarter. They threw a screen to Hunter Renfrow on second down. Tay showed absolutely no effort on a block, whiffed, and Hunter Renfrow got blown up. Then the very next play on third down, he throws a slant, a very catchable ball across the middle, and Tay dropped it. So everybody wants to sit there and complain about the missed throw at the end of the game. I completely understand, but I don't think that even Tay made the most of his opportunities yesterday.
Yeah, so when you said trade deadline, I thought we were going to talk about the James Harden trade first. I do want to touch on that at some point.
I have it written down, yeah.
But
that wasn't trade deadline. But
I know, but yeah. Just the first thing that triggered in my head was just that trade. But yeah, so you were extremely adamant on the fact that the Raiders were not going to trade him throughout this whole time, throughout this whole season, and you were correct. So round of applause to you. It's not the NBA. NFL teams don't do players a solid, like you mentioned in how the NBA sort of just trades players because they don't want to play anymore. And just because somebody might not be happy, they automatically think, all right, well, they'll just trade me. That's not how the NFL works. Were there transitioning into last night's game, were there throws that could have been better by Jimmy Garoppolo? Sure. That exact play that you mentioned is what I was going to bring up as well, because that ball was a catchable ball, little behind him, whatever. He still had both hands on it, and it looks like he kind of just lost concentration for a split second. And as good as these guys are, they drop passes too that they should catch. That being one of them. So
I think that something that's really important, if you go back and watch that game, or if you notice it in the time, he missed an absolute key block to extend the drive to Hunter Renfrow, and then the very next play to extend the drive again goes and drops the ball. Like, what?
Just lack of focus that drive, and like, it was a drive that they had a great opportunity to those two plays specifically. They had a great opportunity to move the ball down the field. If he does his job and blocks, that's probably ends up being a pretty decent gain for Hunter Renfrow. And then the next play, if he ends up catching that football, he's going for at least 20 yards.
Yes.
There was open daylight, and that could have easily changed. I mean, it would have easily changed the drive, and who knows what happens if they execute those two plays. But that's what you get from football teams that aren't good. They're not locked in, and that shit happens.
Yeah,
but that's not something that we would expect from an elite player like Davante Adams. No. He just wasn't in. He just wasn't in it last night.
I'm just saying, for him to be so like whiny for 2 weeks straight, trying to get traded, and then when you do have, okay, whatever, Jimmy missed him on a wide open throw last night. Jimmy was also getting shit pumped the entire evening, but that's another conversation. And you cry for multiple weeks, and then I watch 2 Raiders games, and I feel as if when Jimmy is getting him the ball, Tay is not making the most of the situation. So I get it. Not everything's going to be perfect. But for everybody that like, I don't know if like people forget this, like great players don't just like figure out and be like, oh, like, yeah, like Tay's really good, so let's just trade him to the Chiefs. Well, he has 100+ million left to be dealt on his contract. There's probably there's not many teams that can absorb that contract. And on top of it, the teams that can absorb the contract don't want to take on a 31-year-old wide receiver who, if he plays out that entire contract, he'll be 35 at the end of it. So the teams that can take on that sort of money, like they're not looking to add a receiver who, in my listen, I love Tay, but he is definitely past his prime and he's just getting older at this point.
Yeah, the two teams that come to mind as far as cap space goes are the Bears and the Commanders, and neither one of those teams are in a position to add an elite wide receiver that makes an immediate impact to like it. The timeline for Tay doesn't match the timeline for those two teams as far as like winning goes right now. And we saw that, but like the Bears were weird today, but we saw the Commanders just dish away their whole team.
We'll get into that. One last thing before we get into it. There's a reasoning also why you aren't seeing you never really see like really big time players and like all of player movement halfway through the season, because people don't realize how hard it is to come into a building halfway through when relationships are already made, chemistry is already developed. All of those guys really understand the playbook. Like you literally have to come in, learn an entire new lingo, a whole new playbook, have chemistry with the quarterback. Honestly, a lot of teams probably look at the Tay situation and they're like, as great as he is, does it make a whole lot of sense for us to bring him in halfway through the season because he is a true number one receiver and demands that sort of respect? I don't think that it's just good timing to bring him in at this point of the year.
I'm also like going through the list of teams in my head right now that are in that sort of win now phase. And I mean, realistically, the only one would be the Chiefs that don't have like that elite number one receiver, but I don't know their salary situation.
Why would they get rid of Tyreek Hill, who was owed all of that money, and bring in Tay Adams,
a guy that's older and slower
and has the same damn near the same amount of money due? It just doesn't make a ton of sense.
Agreed. But other than that, like the Eagles don't need him. The Bills wouldn't need him. The Dolphins wouldn't need him. Like Bengals wouldn't need him. Ravens maybe, but Ravens hate paying wide receivers. So like, I don't know about that.
Listen, unfortunately, Tay, you don't want to. That was his choice. He wanted to go there. I understand. Derek Carr is not there. People are upset that they're not getting to see him flourish. It happens a lot in the NFL. It's happened for decades with really great wide receivers who go to a team later in their career and they're not the same guy. It just happens. But you can't get mad. You can't sit there and get mad at an organization who he has made a commitment to, and they've made a 5-year, $140 commitment to, and just expect you to get rid of him because he's unhappy. Like, this isn't the NBA. That's not how things work. Let's get into the trade deadline today.
I just one last thing. I think it's so funny, just like the fandom difference between the NBA and the NFL, because you get the same exact situation in the NBA, and our mindset is like, oh, well, they're going to end up trading him for something, who knows what. And you
let's just talk about the James Harden trade
like,
then.
Yeah, might as well.
Since
like that's a perfect situation is a guy. I mean, I'm not even going to sit here and compare. I'm not going to say that James Harden is like comparable to Devontae Adams. I think James Harden is up there as like my least favorite player. He's just a quitter, and I don't care for him. But that is a situation where he got to a team that he wanted to be on. we don't know what happened behind the scenes as far as Daryl Morey not offering him a contract,
It
but he
sounds
ended
it
up
sounds like
an
what happened
extension.
is he said, "Hey, I'm going to get traded. I'm going to opt in. I'm going to take a payment restructure on my contract last
Yeah,
year to bring in talent so it could help them during the postseason." When
with
that
the
was
expectation of getting
when
paid
that was
this
done,
offseason.
Daryl Morey essentially said, "Hey, we're going to offer you a 3-year max contract for doing that this offseason." And when it came down and it came time to do it, it didn't get done. That's what happened.
Yeah, and do I blame Daryl Morey for not doing that? Absolutely not, because we saw the way that James Harden played. Now, he had some good games in the playoffs, don't get me wrong, but we saw the way that he didn't show up come, I want to say, what was it, game like 6 and 7? He was nowhere to be found, and now he goes on this woe is me pity party and is forced his way out, going to Los Angeles to be a flipper.
We could obviously go into the history of the James Harden thing. I think it's well documented and everybody kind of knows it. What I kind of want to focus on, if this is okay with you, is why in the world do the Clippers think that this is even remotely a good idea? Like, I get it. I understand, I guess, kind of, not really, but this team is just clearly not going to work. And I don't understand how you have. When is the last time you've seen all these guys? Let's just put it this way: all of the guys who are on that team right now are, in my opinion, entirely past their prime. Like, I mean, Kawhi doesn't even play basketball, and Russ is. I think Russ is a good stat patter, but I don't think that he affects the game in a positive manner in any way, shape, or form. I think PG still can do his thing whenever he's healthy, and we already talked about it. James Harden has a foot out the door of basketball. He hasn't wanted to play basketball in 4 years.
I think the Kawhi thing, he doesn't want to. I don't think Kawhi wants to play basketball, but I just don't understand why they think this works either. Um, I saw a couple things about maybe that he's likely to like he thinks that the Clippers are going to be the team that ends up giving him an extension. Um, they I don't know. All these guys are in their last year of their contracts. So I don't know. There's one basketball and there's four guys that are going to want the ball in their hand a lot, and that just doesn't work.
No, it
I also
doesn't
just
work.
don't really. This trade also just doesn't like. If I'm the Sixers, yes, I get it. You got rid of like a guy that didn't want to be there, and it's better to get something out of. It's better to get something, I guess, than just have a player that isn't even playing for you. But this trade just like doesn't move the needle for me unless
No.
these pieces and picks are going to be used to trade for somebody else.
Yeah, I'm completely with you. I mean, we don't talk about it on here, but I've been saying that the Sixers should trade Embiid for the last 3 years. I think that you kind of know what you're getting with the ceiling of the 76ers basketball team, and you know that it's not a championship. So what's the point of keeping Embiid around? Like, I get it, but at some point, like, he has a certain amount of value that you can extract from a team currently. You should take full advantage of that value because you know that he's not going to get you a championship. He never comes in shape. He never seems to be able to stay healthy when it matters. And that's literally the name of the game.
Yeah, I mean, to his credit, he had a phenomenal season in it last year, winning he won MVP.
Yeah, he shouldn't have, but yeah, he won MVP.
At one MVP, and is a phenomenal player. Probably the second best center in the league. But like you said, we know what we're getting out of Joel Embiid when the playoffs come. And now it's not easy to sit here and say that like we're not going to sit here and say that it's easy to win in the playoffs, but there's got to be a point where if you're that guy and you are potentially the most dominant player on the court in a series, you have to take over and you kind of have to just be like, "Hey, I'm going to put the team on my back and we're going to win this thing. And we haven't really seen him do that. I don't know if he's capable of doing that in the playoffs. Stats would say that he hasn't been able to do that. So I'm kind of right there with you. Like, I think there needs to be some type of change. Now, I love getting rid of Harden so that Maxey sort of takes over as the point guard and as the like primary ball handler on that team. But I still think they need some help elsewhere.
Yeah, I completely agree. I hate basketball. I think that the beginning of the season has already been a massive testament to how bad the game has gotten. It's like literally first night of the season. It's like, oh, like sick. The Warriors and the Suns are playing. And then it's like, but Bradley Beal's sitting out because we want to monitor his back, but he played all preseason. So like, what was the purpose of him playing preseason? It
doesn't make sense.
It is so bad. Jimmy Butler rested against the Timberwolves. Like, it's the first week of the fucking season and guys are already doing this rest shit. Like, I genuinely don't understand how the NBA can continue to get away with this and the players can continue to get away with this. That's an entirely different conversation that we can have another day, because I could go on for a full hour about that. But I just think that it was cool to have the NBA back, and I was like, oh, this is exciting. And then literally night one, like, all these players are like out for these imaginary injuries, and it made me realize how bad basketball was.
Yeah. I get it. We can save that for another day, though. Let's jump back to the trade deadline. I mean, there was not a lot of moves. The two.
What did we say though?
Yeah, two big ones were.
What did we say before the trade deadline? We said that we didn't think that a ton would happen, and nothing, and not a lot did happen. I mean, I think Montez Sweat is one of the best young defensive linemen in this league, and I think that I really genuinely think Chicago made a big time move grabbing him. Like, it's extremely slept on because an hour later, Chase Young got dealt to the Niners. Chase Young is a cute name, but I mean, let's just keep it real. He's been extremely underwhelming in his career, and availability is the best. And he hasn't been available. And even when he's on the field, even before he looked good, he got injured, came back. He hasn't looked the same, at least in my opinion. I mean, he is young. He can turn it around, obviously. I think it really speaks measures that Washington was so eager to kind of get rid of him, and they only got a third for him.
Yeah. I don't understand the getting rid of Montez Sweat move. I know that his name started to pop up as somebody that might get traded as we moved closer to the deadline, but I also just don't understand like what the Commanders are trying to do. Like, that's a guy that you want to keep on your team moving forward. Honestly. Yeah, I get that, but I think there was
that's
more.
Just not their problem. Like, their defense isn't their problem. Like,
right, because they have those guys. They should hold on to them.
They need a quarterback. They need a different coach, and they're like not addressing the correct issues. And I think it's ridiculous that you get rid of Chase Young,
the one spot of your team that's actually decent.
Chase Young, who you have under contract for another 2 years. You could have kind of seen how things played out with him. If he got more healthy and got his feet underneath him, he might have been a difference maker. We'll see if that happens. And Montez Sweat is a difference maker. And I thought that was a little random that they got rid of him. Yeah, I just think that they're poorly ran. I think they're a poverty franchise. They continue to be a poverty franchise, and poverty franchises do bad things. And this is what they did. Instead of just being like, hey guys, I know that this sucks and I know we're going to lose games, but we do not have a quarterback and we need to fire Riverboat Ron. And they didn't do either of those things. They traded away great young talent on defense. Like, it was just random.
I also saw a tweet that they were listening to calls about Jahan Dotson, which another move that just makes absolutely no sense. They drafted him 2 years ago, still on a rookie deal, and has been very good for them in an offense that has been very bad to mediocre this entire season, besides when they play the Eagles.
Real quick, I think it was Nick Wright. I saw a lot of people.
I do want to say something about that once you're done.
Said this. He tweeted, the Bears are giving up the 35th pick for Montez Sweat to only see the 49ers give up the 85th pick for Chase Young. Has to burn quite a bit. It's like, I can't believe that these guys on television genuinely get paid to do what they do when they do not pay attention in any way, shape, or form. When you have Chase Young, who has played 34 games in 4 years, who has not looked like himself in any way, shape, or form since he's been back from the knee, and you have Montez Sweat, who is always available and is impactful in every single game he plays, he is going to be more valuable than Chase Young, regardless of the name and where he was taken in the draft.
Yeah, I think that's the one thing that social media has a hard time separating from a name. Like, you see Montez Sweat and you're like, oh, okay, well, he's good. But then you see former number 2 overall pick Chase Young, and you're like, holy shit, how'd the Niners only have to give up a 3rd round pick for this guy? Like, social media does a really bad job of separating the name from the actual product on the field. And this is just another scenario of that, where we saw people overreact about the Niners getting him when the better move of the two was the Bears getting Montez Sweat.
Exactly.
So
exactly. Another move that I want to talk about is Seattle, who is by metric standard top 6 defense statistically in every sense of the matter. Add somebody in Lenny Big Cat Williams from the Giants for a 2nd round pick and a 5th, I believe. I mean, a really good defense who has been playing well, just added more depth on their defensive line. I know that a lot of people probably don't watch a lot of Seattle Seahawks games, but that's going to be a dangerous team. I was beating my chest literally the entire offseason. I texted you, I texted all the boys. I said, plus 220 for the Seattle Seahawks to win the division is an absolute value pick right now. And everybody was like, well, the Niners are in that. Well, guess what? We're 8 weeks in and the Seahawks are winning the West. So I think that it's a really good chance. I mean, you can even bet the Seahawks right now at plus money to win the division. I really like that team this year. I think that they're really complete. I think they're figuring it out on offense and they're getting healthy, and they added a key defensive piece in Big Cat.
Yeah, I think this is, I mean, out of the 3 big defensive linemen that were moved, this is probably the most impactful move, because a team that was already really good added a very good player too. I think he's better than, obviously the Niners are good, but I think that he's better than Chase Young, and then the Bears are just bad. And so I think that I just think that this was, I mean, the Eagles getting Kevin Goyard is not even looking like that significant of a move now, because of these 3 linemen being moved.
Yeah, let's get it straight. That's probably, he was the only all-pro player moved at the deadline. The Eagles are the Eagles. They're really great. They're always going to get this premier talent, and it's almost just at this point expected. So that's why people don't care.
Yeah, I get to every trade deadline and I think to myself, what do the Eagles need, and how is Howie going to pull something out of his ass and make this team even better? And he did it again. And it's just kind of got pushed by the wayside just because today was like the final day, I guess. But yeah, I think the Seahawks made a great move getting him. They're definitely a scarier team now, because that defense was already good, and then you add a guy like that to your D line, and you're going to be going places.
I think honestly, a move that needs to be talked about is the Arizona Cardinals. For some reason, everybody was like, Kyler's sitting out. He's fully healthy. The Vikings are going to trade for Kyler. Kyler's available in trade talks. We've said this since week 1 of the NFL season. Kyler is not up for trade in any way, shape, or form. So I don't know where the media was getting that. So they kind of lived in a fantasy world. But what did get done was Clayton Tune got announced as the starter for this week, who's the rookie quarterback for the Cardinals. And
yeah,
I was like, what the hell? I was like, what happened with Josh Dobbs? And I texted Andrew, and Andrew's like, Minnesota called about Josh Dobbs. So you go out, you get Josh Dobbs. He played damn good football for you all year. Traded a 5th round for him. He did his thing. They didn't absolutely tank. They are competitive. They built chemistry. They look good. And then you go and trade Josh Dobbs to the Vikings for a 6th and 7th round pick. I know that, like, on paper, it's not like the biggest deal in the world, but what they're doing over in Arizona is exactly the right thing. They're controlling the board.
Truly, in what was it, a 6th round pick?
6th and 7th.
Yeah, truly, I don't know what world you would actually get a 6th and a 7th for Josh Dobbs if he wasn't playing at the level that he was playing at this year.
Yeah.
Now, the reason that he got traded to the Vikings was unfortunate. Our guy Kirk Cousins, having a hell of a year, got hurt.
That sucks.
And we absolutely hate to see that. But good for the Cardinals. They sold Josh Dobbs they traded Josh Dobbs probably at his highest point.
No doubt. No
doubt.
Like,
good for them. I think after this week, Kyler will be back.
Yeah, Clayton Tune's going to be playing against the Browns, and then Kyler will be back against the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see him come back and play. I think pretty much just the whole reasoning, and I was part of this at the beginning of the season, at least, is I thought the Cardinals were just going to be so bad that they would want to move on from Kyler Murray because they had an opportunity to get one of those first 2 guys off the board. But
they do. As of right now.
Right, they do. But I thought the reasoning was going to be because they were going to be 1 and 2, so they were going to take quarterback, wide receiver. But now that things have changed and switched up a little bit, I mean, getting Marvin Harrison and Olu Fashanu with your first 2 picks in the first round, I don't think it can really get any better than that. If that's where they end up.
Listen,
but who knows? I mean, Kyler Murray could come back and they could start to ball out. The one thing I would have liked them to do is maybe pick up a receiver if they knew that he was going to come back and be a guy. Now, I don't know if there was anybody available that realistically would have been a good fit for the Cardinals. But I wouldn't hate to see them pick up another guy on offense.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I personally would probably like to go see them probably add like a veteran running back, or probably a running back through the draft this upcoming year. James Conner is just getting a little old and has a lot of miles on him. I love Marvin Harrison Jr. I think he's a can't miss prospect, but I think that he's going to end up falling to a team who's foolish, because you see a lot of these wide receivers in the first round, and I think Marvin Harrison Jr. has a 0% bust rate. But let's just put it this way: Michael Thomas was a 2nd round pick. Tyreek Hill was a 6th round pick. Like, there's real value in wide receiver throughout the entire draft. I mean, Jake Bobo is absolutely balling for Seattle this year, and he was an undrafted free agent. There's just so many options at wide receiver that I think that when the draft comes around and it's time to do what needs to be done, I could honestly see Arizona taking 2 very non-sexy players. Like, you could see them taking like an edge rusher and like an O lineman, and everybody was like, well, you guys were supposed to take Caleb Williams and Marvin Harrison Jr. I think whoever gets Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be lucky, but I think it's going to be a team that's not very good.
So right now the Cardinals sit at 1 and 12. If you're the Cardinals at 1, you're telling me that you do not take Marvin Harrison?
Absolutely not. Why would you? That makes no sense.
You need a wide receiver. And
why would you? But why in the world? Realistically, all jokes aside, you're literally sitting on Caleb Williams, the most prized possession in a draft in the last decade. Any team at the top.
Oh, you think they should take Caleb Williams?
Absolutely not. You're gonna have 12 teams in the NFL absolutely blowing up your phone and you're going to have a choice of a king's ransom from multiple teams in the NFL. I said this months ago. They're going to fleece a team because they're going to give the absolute bag to move up and get Caleb Williams. And from that point, they already have a ton of draft capital. They already have a ton of good young players. They're going to be able to get the pick of the litter and have a ton of draft capital and maybe even a really great player when the time comes around for the draft.
Fair. My only other comment to that is I truly do not think the Cardinals end up getting the number 1 overall pick. I don't think that they finish with the worst record, especially with Kyler coming back. So I understand where you're coming from. I just don't think they end up finishing with the worst record since they're getting their starting quarterback back.
I think what you will see is from picks 1 to 4 this year in this draft, and we'll cover the draft when that time comes. The Cardinals are going to have a top 3 pick guaranteed. I know the Houston's playing decent right now. I think you're going to see Houston
at 12.
I think you're going to see Houston fall off a cliff in the second half of the season. Just my opinion. We'll see how it goes. And I think that the Cardinals will end up with a top 3 pick and then like a top 8 pick. So I think that they're going to be picking like right in the top. And even if they're at the second position, there's going to be a team that wants that's going to give all of the assets to get Drake May. So that's just kind of the position that they're in. The way that their roster is currently constructed, I understand that a wide receiver is exciting, but the reality is that's not a super big concern as of roster building right now for them where they're at.
I'm looking at this. I'm looking at Tankathon right now, and I'm looking at the draft order, and there is just so many bad teams in the NFL.
Oh yeah,
it's really rough. Like the top, so from 1 to 18, all of these teams are bad besides Cincinnati, and in the draft order, and then from 19 to 24, it's like 3 more bad teams, and then 25 to 32 is like really where it starts to get like good.
Yeah, and I think that that's the exact reasoning. I don't think the Cardinals are tanking, but I do think that there is a part in everyone's brain in that entire building that's like, okay, let's play games, let's be competitive, but let's also keep in mind that if we have one of these top 2 picks at the end of the season, we are going to be in an amazing position. So I agree with you, but I think that there is a kind of something in everyone's head in that building, knowing that like they know that they're not going to win. That's not something that they're sitting around being like, well, we need to win now. Like, think about the Chicago Bears. Chicago Bears are in win now mode and they can't do anything. The Cardinals know that they're not going to win. They just need Kyler to come back, play well. They need their young guys to continue to grow and get reps underneath their belt. And that's all they need. They're not trying to win these games. So I think the Cardinals are in a good spot. I think from a roster construction standpoint, I think that they're going to plant their flag into K1. We're going to see him come back. He's one of my favorite players in the NFL. I'm excited to watch him sling the pill, but Cardinals are definitely on my must watch list just from a team building perspective and where they're at when this season's over.
They also have a lot of draft capital. They've got 2 firsts, a second, 3 thirds, 2 fourths.
And don't they have 2 firsts next year too?
3 fifths. I don't know. It's only showing me this year. 3 fifths and then a 7th.
Listen, they got a lot. They just added another 6 and another 7th, and I'm pretty sure that they have 2 first-round draft picks in next year's draft as well. They're in a really great spot. I understand I know that when we get to the time and there are these like really exciting players at the top of the draft, like from a skill position perspective, you want to see people take them, but it usually doesn't go that way when the draft rolls out the way it does. It's usually more of like, quarterback, edge rusher, tackle, and then those other key positions kind of fall off the board.
I mean, I think we're to the point where wide receiver is just as important as one of those.
Your mic just unplugged. Yeah, I know that you are a beater on your chest of. Yeah, I'm good. Are you?
I just want to make sure you could hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you. I know that you're a beater on your chest of the wide receiver position, but you look at the wide receiver position in the NFL and it's loaded. There's a ton of talent. So it's harder to go out and find those key positions. It's hard to find a really good quarterback. You're seeing it this year with all of the mid quarterback play. You talked about it last week. It's really hard to go out and get one of those tackles who are, you can see it this year as well. Offensive line plays way down. They look bad. And then you see what happens when you have an elite edge rusher on your team and what it could do for you. Look at Max Crosby on the Raiders defense. He's an animal. He affects every single play. I just think that those positions are a lot harder to find at the top of the draft. And I mean, not at the top of the draft, into the mid to late rounds of the draft than what we have seen develop at the wide receiver positions in the mid to the late rounds of the draft over the last decade, honestly.
No, I completely agree with you. I think it's certainly easier to find that late talent wide receiver, late talent running back than it is to find a late talent offensive tackle or defensive tackle D end.
I probably think that the way that I would rank the positions in the draft that of importance: quarterback, I'd say edge, I'd say tackle, and then I'd say corner, and then I'd say wide out. Those are probably the priority positions in my head that matter the most on the field, where you absolutely need a quarterback. Obviously, I think edge rusher could arguably be the most important position on the field. You need a freak there. Tackle to protect your quarterback. You could probably interchange the edge or the tackle position to one, or I'd probably, looking at it now, put tackle at 2. I'd put corner right after that, and then wide receiver.
I mean, I agree with you with the quarterback. I don't know. I haven't thought about that a ton. I'm just trying to think through teams that have taken wide receivers early.
Dude, you look at the list of some of the wide receivers that go in the first round, and it's extremely underwhelming. There's guys that go at the top of the class. I'm not saying, like I said, I think
Marvin that happens for every position.
That is true, but I think that it happens way more at the wide receiver position than it does at I'm just saying that there are wide receivers that pop off in the second to later rounds way more than you see the wide receivers go in the first. I mean, Amon-Ra St. Brown was a 4th round pick 2 years ago, and I think that he's a top 10 wide receiver in the league.
I think it's more wide receivers. It's easier to find a better wide receiver in the mid to late than it is to find an elite wide receiver in the mid to late than it is to find a elite tackle or edge rusher in the mid to late.
Yeah.
I think you're getting more locks at that first round with those types of guys, tight or tackle, edge rusher than receiver.
Yeah, I agree. One thing, I texted you about this, and then we can get into the games. We're running a little long, but fuck it.
We are.
I wasn't expecting to talk about all that, but I was talking to Sprack. Sprack's a big Steelers fan, as you know, extremely biased. The Steelers suck, plain and simple. They should have gotten shit pumped on Sunday, by the way. We'll get into that. And he was just like, the Steelers are a Class A organization. And I was like, yeah, so are the Eagles. He's like, Eagles aren't a top organization in the league. I'm like, well, the Eagles have more playoff wins since 2000 than in the last 20 years. The Eagles have more playoff wins than the Steelers do. So then I went on a deep dive of playoff wins since 2000. Patriots, these are the top one.
Yep, I have it up right now.
Patriots 30, Eagles 16, Ravens 16, Steelers 15, Seahawks 14, Packers 14. Then we have Super Bowls. Patriots 9 appearances, 6 wins. The Eagles 3 appearances, 1 win. The Ravens 2 Super Bowls, 2 appearances, 2 wins. Steelers 3 appearances, 2 wins. Seahawks 4 appearances, 2 wins. The Packers went 1-for-1. Packers kind of choked later on in the season. Yeah. And honestly, looking at that list, it's just like it's honestly almost shocking how in the last 20 years there is. I think the Chiefs are in that class right now. They haven't had the playoff success that those teams have, but the teams who have been successful the last 20 years are kind of the teams that are successful right now. I mean, the Eagles are in the absolute driver's seat. The Ravens are the absolute driver's seat, and the Seahawks are back this year. I just think it's interesting.
Yeah, to be fair, I didn't realize that it was a 1-game difference between the Eagles and the Steelers, but I mean, undoubtedly, since 2000, the Eagles have been a elite organization.
I mean, let's call it as it is real quick. The Steelers haven't won a playoff game since 2016.
Yeah, I mean, that's inexcusable for a team that's considered an elite organization. Like I said, I didn't know that the gap was 1, but to not include the Eagles as a top tier organization in the last 23 years is foolish. And it truly, it's ignorant, and that just it is what it is. I mean, that's something that you would say that if you didn't know what you were talking about.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I just thought it was interesting that how the teams who have had the most playoff wins over the last 20 years have been the most relevant when it matters in the Super Bowls and in the regular season. I just thought it was looking at it, I hadn't realized, I guess, even the Eagles' success over the last 20 years even.
Yeah, I think I saw a tweet today that Jalen Hurts is, I want to say, like a few games away from winning more games than Carson Wentz did in his time as an Eagle, but with like significantly less losses. So it just goes to show that the Eagles are tuned in as an organization. They knew something that the public and all the fans didn't know when they decided to take Jalen Hurts, in that second round of that draft. And
hey,
it's
another
paying
conversation.
off.
Second round pick.
Yep. Yeah, it's paying off. They've handled things very well. Howie Roseman has been a phenomenal GM for this team, and I don't think that's going to change anytime soon as long as he's at the helm and he's running things and building these teams year in and year out. He has a great idea as to how to make a team better, and he somehow fucking does it every year.
Every year.
And I think that this isn't just like an Eagles thing, but it just goes to show just how important it is, like building from the trenches. And I guess this kind of tailors back to the draft thing. It's so important. Obviously, having a good quarterback is important. I guess it just goes to show, like, if you can put out a quality offensive line and a quality defensive line week in and week out, you're going to give yourself a good chance to win football games. I mean, we see all these teams in the NFL with good defenses, i.e. the Jets, Steelers, Browns. And now the Browns have a good O-line, but it's just so important to be able to put out a quality D-line. And if you can match it with a quality O-line, then you're going to have some success, even if your quarterback isn't one of the top 10 best in the league.
Yeah, I agree. Something I just want to get into, the Eagles are really good. I mean, last week we watched them absolutely sit on the Dolphins, do an maybe one of the best 2-minute drives I've ever or fourth quarter closing drives that I've seen in a really long time. Then they go out to the Commanders, get punched in the mouth, go down, and then absolutely sling it and come back from behind, win the game by 7 when they were down 14 at a point. Eagles can do it in multiple ways. They're really fucking good. They're going to be able to figure out how to win these games when it comes down to when it really matters. I think that they're just like one of the scariest teams in the NFL right now.
Yeah, for whatever reason, the Commanders always play the Eagles tough, but if they can I don't put too much into that, like the Commanders sticking with them, because it is a week-to-week league. We saw
And
what
you
the
see them
Eagles
twice a year.
Exactly. We saw what the Eagles did to the Dolphins, who have an elite offense, shut them down. Everybody on Twitter and on X, is like, "Oh, look at this Cowboys offense. The Eagles just gave up this, this, and this to the Commanders." The Eagles will come ready to play. They come ready to play week in and week out, minus the Jets. They might have had some injuries there, but nevertheless, it's a week by week league. We saw what this team did to the Dolphins on offense. They got the Cowboys at home on Sunday in the Link, 425. They're going to come ready to play. That place is going to be jumping. I'm fucking excited for it.
Yeah, no doubt. We'll get into the games obviously when it comes time. Real quick, I want to talk about the elimination pool and my weekend of gambling, because I saw the board literally so clear it was scary. My elimination, I went for a legacy week and I picked the Broncos and the Panthers and they both won.
Yeah, that's right.
So the Panthers were a winless team. They came out, handled business. The Broncos
last second field goal to win it.
And the Broncos, plain and simple, they shit pumped the Chiefs. The Chiefs offense, I think Vance Joseph just has Patrick Mahomes figured out, plain simple. And I listened to Sheil and Ben talk about how they're not worried about the Chiefs. I think when you put up one touchdown against the Broncos in 2 games, I really think that that's something to be worried about. I mean, that's just my opinion. I know that the Chiefs could go to the Super Bowl and I wouldn't be shocked, but I think that this year they're a bad team. And I've said that for multiple weeks, regardless of their record. I think that they've gotten bailed out multiple times and their record doesn't show that. Putting up one touchdown to the Broncos, who gave up 70 fucking points to the Dolphins and gave up multiple big score games to other teams. I'm worried about that offense. I'm worried about Patrick Mahomes. I don't think that they're dialed this year. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think the easy excuse is that Mahomes wasn't feeling well.
If he's not feeling well, don't play. How about that?
I was going to say. That's what I was going to say.
I'm sorry. Listen, I'm sorry. I saw that.
You didn't let me finish.
Don't fucking play.
I was going to say.
If you're not yes. healthy, then don't fucking play. But go ahead.
I was getting there. I was going to say, if you're playing, the fans and everybody else is expecting you to play at that same level, regardless of you being sick or not. So if you're sick and you aren't going to play to that level, now I get it. Everybody has a bad game here and there, but this didn't even look like Patrick Mahomes out there.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody wants to shit on Jalen Hurts. I'm sorry to bring this back to the Eagles, but everybody wants to shit on Jalen Hurts, say, oh, he doesn't look good this, he doesn't look good that. He has this many interceptions. Patrick Mahomes has just as many picks and has looked significantly worse than him throughout this year.
Yes.
I mean, I think there is definite concern for this Chiefs team. Now, they could easily just be playing bad right now, but I'm right there with you. It could be that Vance Joseph has them figured out, but wait, is that right?
Yeah, that's the defensive coordinator.
That's right. He could just have them figured out, and that's fine too. But this hasn't looked like Mahomes that we know year in and year out this year. And this was another team that I was expecting them to try and make a move for a receiver, and they didn't do it.
I mean, they got Mecole Hardman. What are you talking about?
Yeah, sorry. The difference maker.
Listen, I mean, this is going to happen. I think that there's going to be ebbs and flows with this Chiefs team. the Patriots rung off 3 Super Bowls in a row and then didn't go back for 7 years. I mean, it happens. I'm not expecting the Chiefs to go to the Super Bowl every single season, but I think that this is one of those teams, like I said, you put up literally 1 touchdown to, I think, is a universally agreed upon in the NFL universe that the Broncos aren't the best team. And the fact that you can't handle business against them, I mean, I don't think that they handled business against them the first game. I think that they got very lucky in that first game. The Broncos offense just decided not to show up. So, yeah, I mean, that's what I think. And congrats to, and another thing is everybody was crowning CJ Stroud as the undoubtedly prince, and Bryce Young was a bust, and this, that, and the third. And then in the head-to-head, I'm not saying it was a perfect game by any means, but in the head-to-head, I thought Bryce Young clearly outplayed him, and they came in dialed in, and a winless team came out and beat a Houston team who everybody kind of agreed that they looked pretty good. And I thought that was impressive.
Yeah. I mean, I think you were the one primarily that mentioned it. I still think CJ Stroud's going to be good.
For sure.
I don't think at any point either one of us ruled out Bryce Young.
No.
It was more so just this Panthers team isn't good as a collective issue. But this just goes back to what I said. It's week by week. Who cares if a team doesn't have a win? Literally anybody can win any week of the season. And this is just a perfect example of that. While we're on the AFC and kind of how the Chiefs were a little bit down before we transitioned into that game, but 2 teams that I'm kind of worried about if I am an AFC team are the Jags and the Bengals. Those 2 teams are playing some good football these last couple weeks, and they just carried it over into this weekend. And I mean, we saw. What do you want to talk about, the Jags, or do you want to go to Bengals first?
I mean, I had both their money. I picked both their money lines. We can tie it into betting as well. I said I like the Jags this week. They were favored by 2.5. I had them at 2.5. I had them to win the first half and the second half, and I had their money line straight up. Yeah, I mean, I have multiple tickets with the Jags to win the AFC, for them to make the Super Bowl, for Trevor Lawrence to win the MVP. I have all those tickets in my hand and on my FanDuel account. I've been beating my chest for them since the offseason. I think they're a really good team. That's a team that went out and got a guard to add to their offensive line as well during the trade deadline. They got better. Their defense leads the league in takeaways. They're really scrappy. They were without one of their best safeties in that game. Yeah, going into Pittsburgh in the rain and handling business is impressive.
It's not an easy thing to do. We both know how well the Steelers play at home as underdogs, and although Kenny Pickett got hurt, I don't know if that truly would have made a difference. But the Jags came in there, and I think that's 5 straight.
5 straight.
5 straight. I mean, they look good. I think this is the Jags team that people sort of expected to see when the season started.
And listen, that's going to happen. I mean, 100%. We saw it with, we can transition it straight into the Bengals.
Yep.
We literally said the entire time, their defense isn't healthy, and Joe
Burrow wasn't healthy.
What happened?
T. Higgins wasn't healthy. Like they're good.
What happens? Their defense gets healthy. They start playing really good ball on the defensive side of Big Lou is a great defensive coordinator. We said that the entire time. Joe Burrow goes into the bye, gets healthy. T. Higgins gets healthy, and I had their money line at plus 210. They went out and shit pumped the 49ers. The 49ers didn't stand a chance.
No, this game was although it was a 14-point game, which that is kind of a decent sized win in the NFL.
Quick though, what did you say to me last pod? You said no way the Niners lose 3 straight. Is that not what you said?
I did. I didn't think that.
And what happened? They lost.
And here we are. Yeah, I was reverse psychologing the 49ers, and it worked.
Well, there you go. It worked.
I needed him to lose because now look at my Eagles atop the NFC. That's what I was doing. It was all part of the plan,
I
and
respect
you
that.
fell for it. But yeah, I still don't think I'm still taking the Niners seriously. I mean, they
Oh, of
another game
course.
where they don't have Trent Williams, I don't think, and then another game where they
No
don't have Debo.
Debo. Yeah.
Like, I mean, I think the biggest red flag here is just that defense. I mean, Joe Burrow is obviously a top
He's locked.
3 quarterback probably, and that's what that's what good quarterbacks do. But I don't know, man. That defense did not look great. I know obviously we talked about them going out and adding some help along that D line, but Joe Burrow was doing whatever he wanted to that defense, to that secondary. I mean, he went 28 for 32, 283 and 3 touchdowns. I mean,
He
you
was
can't
locked.
get any better than that.
Yeah, he was locked.
And
For
that's
sure.
against an elite defense.
For sure.
So maybe it's not as elite as we think, but props to Joey B. I'm glad he's healthy. Glad the Bengals are kind of balling out right now. They're scary. They're playing good football right now.
Yeah, they're back for sure. I think that division's still stacked. I think the
Such a tough
Browns.
division.
I think the Browns clearly take a step way down until they figure out whatever the fuck's going on with Deshaun Watson. I have no clue.
Shit's crazy.
Real quick, I said Bucks plus 8.5 on Thursday night against the Bills. That shit closed at 10. I rebetted at 10. Obviously, we had the refs clearly got called in for that game. Absolute miracle on that last drive.
Yeah.
And they ended up covering. So amazing. But hey, it still hit. Falcons.
Hey, never apologize for a win.
Falcons was somebody who I really liked this week. They laid an absolute egg. Arthur Smith is an interesting guy. He's married to Desmond Ritter. Don't understand why. He got pulled from the game because he got evaluated for a concussion. He cleared concussion protocol. He said he wanted to be safe. He put Taylor Heineke out there. Heineke kind of slung the pill, but then in the post-game presser, he pretty much was like, yeah, like he didn't get pulled because of performance. That's still our guy, and he's probably going to play this week. Don't really understand
It's so stupid. The gap between Taylor Heineke and Desmond Ritter is minuscule. And if anything, I think Taylor Heineke's probably a better quarterback. He can at least throw the ball to receivers and won't fumble it 8 times on the 1 yard line.
I mean, another thing is too, is one, he doesn't take care of the football. And two, this offense right now is worse than last year's offense when Marcus Mariota was the quarterback, which if you think about that, that's pretty fucking crazy because
that was
you
bad.
you get back a healthy Kyle Pitts. He was missing last year. You add a Bijan Robinson and the offense is worse. So
yeah, you have another year under your belt of Kenyon Drake or Drake London developing, and they're still bad. And I mean, I don't understand it. I saw a tweet today that said that Arthur Smith's dad is like the owner of some like $6 billion company. And it's like, it makes sense because he coaches like his job doesn't matter is what I saw this person tweet out. And they couldn't be more accurate. I mean,
go ahead. Sorry.
I think the Falcons have a good defense, and that's another team that is just one quarterback away from being good. And there's probably 7 of these teams in the NFL that are built like that. And do I think that they win a Super Bowl with Taylor Heineke? No, fuck no. But I think that they're a better football team with Taylor Heineke playing quarterback.
Well, real quick,
they have guys to get the ball to. Their O-line is decent. Their defense is good. I mean,
but the Falcons were also a team that when Lamar became available in the summer, they were the first team to come out and say will not be fielding any sort of interest for Lamar Jackson. Which, well, you look at that now, that's an absurd statement.
Is Arthur Blank the GM or the owner there? Is that who it is? Well, regardless, imagine waking up in the off season. Yeah, Arthur Blank. Arthur Blank is the co-founder of the home improvement retailer, the Home Depot. Good for him. So Why don't you spend some of that fucking Home Depot money and get yourself a quarterback, you idiot?
Yeah, I don't get it.
But instead, he woke up every day this offseason and said, you know what? I don't want to take Lamar Jackson on my team. I want Desmond Ridder to play quarterback for my team. How dumb can you be?
I'm completely with you.
It's
And
so, I mean, it's a blessing for the Ravens.
You know what the craziest part is? That they're probably still going to win the division and make the playoffs. Insane.
That division is such shit.
To continue.
Yeah. I do think we owe, I don't want to leave that Falcons Titans game because I do think we might owe Will Levis an apology.
No,
I know it's a game, but that was a great game.
Absolutely not. I refuse. I'm not getting suckered in to the Will Levis experience.
I'm not saying he's
like
going to be
other
phenomenal.
Person. Listen, I am not getting suckered in to the Will Levis experience. I just won't do it.
I'm not either.
I think
all I'm saying is he had a good game, and I just want that recognized.
Yeah, good for him. D-Hop got away with a crazy OPI, but it was good to see D-Hop have a good game. I mean, shit, that guy was on ice, so I'm happy for him.
Realistically, the game plan in Tennessee should not be that hard. It should be throw the ball to DeAndre Hopkins and hand the ball off to Derrick Henry. But they can't figure that out.
Throw it to Nick Westbrook-Akina and then give it to Tajay Spears. I don't know what you're talking about. To continue, Broncos 310 money line called it their spread, and I texted you and I said my mortal lock was the under at 45.5 points, hit by a country mile. With that being said, I did think that there was going to be a foot of snow on the ground.
Yeah,
and when the game started, it was the most beautiful day I've ever seen in my entire life.
Dude, that was such bullshit. I saw a video of someone in the stands at that game, and clearly there was a foot of snow there prior because this person couldn't even put their feet on the ground. But when I turned that game on and there was no snow on that field, I was furious. But whatever, it hit anyways.
So the game didn't go the way that I predicted it to go, but at the end of the day, the Cardinals and the Ravens game, I said that I wouldn't take the Ravens, and because I thought that the game would be a close one. It really wasn't a close one, but at the end of the game, some bizarre shit happened, and the Cardinals covered and the over hit. I said I liked the over in that game, but I said I was a stay away from that game, and guess what? The Cardinals somehow pulled a cover out of their ass, got an onside kick. That shit was insane.
That was crazy. What, Nelson Aguilar couldn't hold on to the rock?
Literally.
Unreal. I mean, that's the least surprising thing. Nelson Aguilar not catching a football. But yeah, you called it. That game was close. But it shouldn't have been.
No.
And sometimes those are the best ones to win, though.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't even know. That was wild. I can't believe that it ended up being that close, but here we are. What is the Cardinals' record against the spread this year? I wonder.
I don't know. They got to be good though. They got to be like batting 100 at least. Real quick while you're looking that up. Bad read by Warren Sharp this week. I stood on this hard. It was Texans at Panthers. I was all over this one. Rookie QBs off of a bye are 36-19 to the over. The over under in those games are set at 42.5 by the sports book with an average final score of 46.5. Also, winless teams off of a bye are 16-9 to the over, and that was where the Panthers came in. This game hit. This game's under hit by a mile. And I was all over that over. I thought that was a good tidbit that Sharp put out, but that's just kind of not how the game went. But I did have the Panthers +3, and they were an outright winner.
Yeah, I had that over too, and I kind of had that on like off to the side and wasn't really paying that much attention to it. But at one point, I think we were like 13 points away with a full quarter left, and I was like, oh, we might have something a shot here. Yeah. I was like, we might have some life, and neither one of these teams could move the football, so that hope vanished rather quickly. But it is what it is. if you had the Panthers, that all I took in that game was the over. So
Yeah.
that was a nice L for me.
Next game I had Seahawks -3.5. Absolute. Me and you both had it, I believe.
Yeah, I had it
because we were texting about it, and
Yeah.
it hit like an absolute miracle. I mean, honestly, another really impressive win by the Seahawks, where you kind of thought they were kind of down and out, and they came down. Geno drove and won them the football game. So can't really hate.
All-time dumb coaching decision by Kevin Stefanski.
Yes, absolutely.
Again.
Go ahead. Highlight it.
Yeah, so the Browns had the ball with the lead. It was 20-17 with like a minute and 25 seconds left, and they were moving the ball at like 4.5, 5 yards a clip. And it gets to third down. They throw it. It's picked off by Jamal Adams.
Reek Woolen.
Reek Woolen, sorry. It hit Jamal Adams' helmet, and then Tariq Woolen caught it.
Yes.
And Geno Smith just leads him down the field, punches it in. Our guy JSN, go ahead touchdown. But
I gave that out on this pod. I said he was getting hot. I said trade for him in fantasy, and guess what? He's getting hot. Go ahead.
All that they had to do was run the football on that third down. Even if you don't get a first down and you punt the ball away, you force Geno Smith to go the entire length of the field with your insane defense at the helm. But no, throw the football with a XFL quarterback, no disrespect, but that's the only way they would have lost that game, is a dumbass move like that. And there we have it. Yeah. Seahawks win, Seahawks cover. Shouldn't have won it, but
they did. And I mean, not having your $248 million guaranteed quarterback out there is probably a big thing. Whatever. We don't have to get into that. Another bet that I had in that game was Kenny Walker 16.5 over for the longest rush of the game. He hit it on his very first carry of the game. He had a 47-yard rush. So I hit that with Breece Hall a few weeks ago. I like those bets when they're playing certain teams. So hit that right away. And I absolutely have to talk about this parlay that I hit, bro.
Go ahead.
I have to pull it up because I don't even remember the exact thing.
All right. I can go through my bets that I had this weekend. So I had Jordan Addison over 4.5 receptions.
That was a lock.
Light. I had Alvin Kamara. Yeah, I had Alvin Kamara over 5.5. I think he finished with 4. So it didn't hit. Yeah. CeeDee Lamb over 66.5 yards against the Rams.
That was a lock.
Easy money. Saquon Barkley over 16.5 rush attempts against the Jets.
He finished with like 117 rush attempts.
Yeah, I know. He should get the ball every play.
I think he had like 20 something, right?
Yeah, because Donnie DeVito came in and played quarterback. Tommy DeVito.
Good bet though.
There was an Up and Adams boost that I took, and it was for Joe Burrow to throw for 200 yards, and then CMC or Jamar Chase to score.
My dad took that.
I think CMC scored twice, and Jamar scored once, anyways.
Yeah.
And Joe Burrow threw for like 290.
Yeah, my dad took that too. That was a good bet. I wish I took it.
Yeah, I had I had a same game parlay for the Eagles Commanders game. It was just Eagles money line. Jalen Hurts 200 pass yards and Devontae Smith tutty. And then
nice.
Yeah.
Oh, I had I had Devontae Adams over 4.5 receptions plus 102.
Yeah.
He finished with like 8, I think. But go ahead, keep going.
I lost. I had the Texans Saints over 37. Texans Saints. Sorry, that should have been Texans Panthers over 37.5. I even teased it down and it didn't hit. With Broncos Chiefs under 52. And then I live bet the Steelers, and then like shortly after, Kenny Pickett got blown into smithereens.
First off, the Jaguars have made me I looked at my Pickett app. They're my most bet team this season. They've made me a ton of money, so that's disrespectful, but keep going.
Well, watching that game, it just felt like a game that the Steelers ended up coming back and winning.
I get
Like,
it.
they're in it. It's a one-score game. Their defense is playing well enough. They hang around, and then George Pickens rips off a 70-yard touchdown, and
Fair.
they take the lead. And then I had the Seahawks with the Chiefs Broncos under 52 again because I just loved that under, and I was fully convinced that there was going to be 6 feet of snow.
Yeah, me too. Sounds like you had a great weekend too. Maybe it was the board, bro. I think the board was just nice this weekend.
I think when the board's bad, it's when I shine the most. The board's good this weekend, and I'm gonna get cooked. I can feel it.
We'll get into that. This is the nuke that I had, that I just hated the chance of the Chargers Bears game being any good, but I knew that it was a Donald Parham night, so I took Donald Parham anytime touchdown score, Herbert over 1.5 passing yards, lock, over 264 passing yards, Chargers money line in the under at 52. Kind of sweated that out. $10 to win 250. I mean, the luckiest hit of all time, but like,
love that, yeah.
But that was like what we ended with.
I didn't know that Parham was 6'8".
Yeah.
So that's just like a cool thing that you don't really see that too often from people that are not offensive linemen. So when you get like a tight end that's 6'8" and he goes out there and kind of balls, it's always fun. I'm sure I don't even know how many like basketball references I heard during that game, but if somebody's like over 6'3" playing receiver, then it's like we always get he's gonna box him out. Just he played basketball when he was in middle school, and we always get some of those.
He was a good ball player in high school.
He was a 1,000-point scorer.
He leads the league. He leads the league in touchdowns by tight end. So
does he actually?
Yeah, I mean, he's good. I mean, he's like a good target for. I'm pretty sure, at least. I think he does. He is a good target for Justin Herbert. They cut Trey McKitty. Gerald Everett's kind of been banged up this year, but yeah, I like Donald Parham. The group chat got the Parham touchdown on the parlay, and we all hit that night, so it was great.
So the Parham is actually tied for second.
Okay,
he's got 4. Mark
who's
Andrews
first
has 6.
Okay, he must have balled. I think he caught one this weekend, so.
I think he did too. Parham's tied with our young prince, Sam Laporta, and Travis Kelce. Speaking of Sam Laporta, the game Monday night against the Raiders, we kind of touched on it at the very beginning, but one of the things that Mr. Warren Sharp, sent out was about how bad the Raiders are at guarding tight ends.
Yeah.
And I had a same game parlay, and I was so close to putting Sam Laporta as the touchdown scorer. But I took over like 4 receptions, over 40 yards for him. And I should have done touchdown, but I picked Jacoby Myers instead. Because for whatever reason, Garoppolo loves throwing to Jacoby Myers, but
not last night.
Yeah, not last night. But yeah, I love Sam Laporta, and he's phenomenal in that offense. Jared Goff loves finding him.
Yeah, man, I took the Raiders money line last night. It was the right play. I mean, if you're telling me that we get a forced fumble on the 2, a pick 6, like I would have told you that they won that game easy. Man, that offense looked so bad. That O-line is awful. And if Jimmy's that scared to continue to get hurt and he doesn't want to get hit, I just don't really see how much longer he can play in the NFL. He looked scared the entire night. His footwork looked awful. I just think that if you're scared to get hurt, which he's been banged up a fuck ton in his career, I just don't see how much longer he has in the NFL.
Yeah, and normally the thing that you get out of a quarterback that is kind of scared is them to get rid of the ball like abnormally quick. And for whatever reason, it felt like he was just standing back in the pocket way too long and not even trying to throw the football. Like it looked like he was back there just fucking around, making a sandwich, doing some whatever. And it looked like he was just asking people to tackle.
Yeah, I just don't think that on the other side of things, I don't think Josh McDaniels was doing a good job of emphasizing what they're bad at, and that's having a bad O-line and taking advantage of like the quick game and the screen game. And honestly, Josh Jacobs finally showed up and was running the ball relatively well. Some bad luck, some deep starts in their own territory on offense. They couldn't get anything going, plain and simple. Yeah, it looked bad, and man, I just don't really see how much longer. I know that they're saying Mark Davis can't afford to fire him. I think McDaniels completely lost that locker room. It's obvious with the frustrations of their key players. And I saw that they had team meetings that week about where McDaniels essentially stood up in front of the team and was like, hey, you guys can literally say whatever you want. Nothing's off limits. Get whatever you have to say off your chest. They went out and did that, and then they went out and I think had one of their worst performances from an offensive perspective the entire year.
If you're a player in that situation, are you saying anything? Like, dude, you fucking suck. Like, why are you still coaching?
If you're Max Crosby,
yes.
If you're Josh Jacobs,
yes.
If you're Tay Adams,
if you're Hunter Renfrow,
and if you're Josh, and if you're if you're if you're Jimmy G, you're allowed to say whatever you want. And the way that you go about it is you go around and be like, hey guys, you have an internal meeting, obviously first with the guys. You get out some grievances that need to get out. And then those players, I probably think it's Max who probably talked. Max probably
been there the longest.
He probably goes up in front of the team and talks to McDaniels and voices what the other guys have to say.
Yeah.
At least that's what I think. I mean, I have absolutely no fucking clue, but
not at all.
But if I had to guess, that's what it would be.
Yeah, I would say he's probably like the most. I mean, he's easily the most well-respected guy in that locker room, I would imagine. He's probably been there. Yeah, he's been there the longest, so
he's their best player. Like,
yeah, if there's anybody that's gonna talk about how unhappy everybody is and how things need to get turned around, it's probably fair that he would be the voice of that.
Yeah, definitely. Is there any other games that you would like to touch on this weekend? From the weekend, I mean.
No, I think I'm good. I'm ready to dive into week 9.
Dude, I'm sweating so bad right now.
Are you nervous?
No, my room's hot for some reason.
You're wearing a beanie too.
Well, I just cut my hair, so.
And not all of it.
Well, yeah, I would never cut. I will never not have long hair ever again.
Yeah, but you would wear a hat anyways, but it's not, a beanie's definitely going to make a difference.
You just don't get it.
I do get it. I have long hair too.
No, you don't.
I have long hair too.
You're literally balding. Man, this slate's awful. But with that being said, I cannot wait to bet on college football this weekend.
I don't even know what it's looking like for college football. I've
been
too fired up about this. Too fired up about this NFL slate.
Me either.
I can't wait to stay up.
I bet it.
I can't wait to stay up Saturday night and watch Colorado suck again.
No, I will never watch them ever again in my 35 years of life. I will never watch them. I
mean, that was the worst offensive line performance I think I have ever witnessed in my entire life. Like I've gone to midget football games and seen a better performance.
Bro, when I implement,
it's just effort. There was no effort.
Dude, there were guys standing. Did we watch the game together?
Yeah, it was like me, you, Cole.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. We all specifically sat down like 2 weeks ago and were like, we'll never bet on Colorado ever again. And then when it came time to bet, I hit on the UMass money line at like
I did see that.
Yep. At like plus something 300 or something, and I was all fired up, and I was like, I'm gonna hit another. And I hit on NC State. I was like, I'm gonna hit another long shot money line with the Colorado boys. They honestly played well. Shiloh Sanders kind of got kicked out of the game on a bullshit fucking call.
Horrible call.
They had Travis Hunter had 2 all-time picks. Great plays by him.
Such a beast.
And then they forced a fumble. And then on the offensive side of the football, they were so inept, and the offensive line gave an all-time bad performance and no effort. They were showing the all-22 version on the screen, and the left guard was standing up and like fucking,
that guy was picking his ass.
He wasn't doing anything. And then we talk about it all the time, but then you go on X and they're like, oh well, like Dion said that like the way that
Dion called out all of those offensive linemen, and he should have, because you can't coach, like you can't teach effort. Like you blatantly have to not try, and that's what it looked like these guys were doing.
Thank you. And that's exactly what I was gonna say. It's like everybody was like, oh well, like Dion actually said this about his O-lineman. That's gonna make him want to block for his son. It's like, no,
it doesn't matter. They aren't doing shit anyways. Even if they are trying, they don't fucking block.
Even before that game, he was by far the most pressured and most sacked quarterback in college football. And then after that game, I was like, do they not like him? Like they're literally Shador was on the sideline and he was like literally like he couldn't breathe. Like I like felt bad for the guy. I was like, Doc might tell me he couldn't put any weight on it. And I was like,
yeah, on his chest.
I was like, you guys got to get these guys off the fucking field. I mean, like the offense couldn't do anything. I felt bad. And man, that it really goes to show you how above expectations they were playing at the beginning of the season to win some of those games, because this team is low key pretty bad.
I also think UCLA has a pretty good defense. But with that being said, Oregon State plays at Colorado at 10 on Saturday night. So
that's a lock. That might be a lock.
It's 13.5. So
no, I'm not betting it, but I will be betting the entire college slate because it's so much fun. But
it is.
To get into this week 9, I believe, correct?
Week 9 is correct.
It says it right here.
That's right.
So we have on Thursday Night Football, maybe the worst game of the entire year, in my humble opinion. I have actively and put out an official statement in the group chat earlier today that I will not be placing any action on this football game.
Bullshit.
The Tennessee Titans are playing the Pittsburgh Steelers. Minkah Fitzpatrick has already been ruled out for this game. Ryan Tannehill has already been ruled out for this game, which I don't think that matters because they have the best quarterback in the league in Will Levis. And
I don't know if Kenny Pickett's playing either.
And I was just about to say that, and there's a good chance that Kenny Pickett might not be available for this game either. This is
listed as a game time decision. Yep.
This is a complete stay away from all sense of the words. You have no idea how this game's going to go. If I have to say anything, I would say the Tennessee Titans I like a few more of their pieces better than the Steelers. So I would lean Titans.
Yeah. I think the only bet that I would take in this game is the under.
Okay.
The also other bet that I would take is DeAndre Hopkins touchdown.
Okay.
Maybe receptions, something in there. I'd have to see where we're at with like the line come Thursday, but this is going to be an ugly ass game if Kenny Pickett doesn't play, and even if he does play, it'll still probably be ugly. But with that being said, I would probably lean Titans if Kenny Pickett doesn't play, but if he plays, I would take the Steelers to cover.
Okay. I don't want to spend too much time on that.
Germany game.
Yeah, Germany game. Love these games. I love waking up in the mornings. I wake up at like 7, make my bed, brush my nices, go get breakfast and a coffee, and then sit down and watch football. It's the best.
12 hours.
Initial lean right away. Initial thought. I don't think that the Chiefs should be favored in this game. Second, I want to see the injury report for the Dolphins. Third, the under is the best play on the board out of all of these games. It is an absolute mortal lock under 50.5. It's the biggest lock on the board.
Yeah, I think majority of the time, whenever these teams go across the pond, that we end up getting unders.
Yeah,
But yeah,
but
I don't understand how the
the
Chiefs are
unders
favorited in this game.
the unders are usually set at 48 or 46. We're getting it at 50.
Yeah,
I think you bet it. I literally think you bet it tonight if you
yeah.
like the under before it goes down to like that 49 range. I would think this game probably closes around 48 and we'll monitor that. And then, like I said, the second thing, I want to see the injury report for the Dolphins. Tyreek Hill revenge game. Think he's going to snap. Jalen Ramsey came back last week off of a knee injury. I was definitely worried about him. No rust in his game in any way, shape, or form. He looks great. I
He
think
got thrown a pop up.
I think the Dolphins are going to. Well, they didn't even throw his side of the field. If you literally go and look at the next gen stats of his throws to he was playing the left side of the field. He didn't throw on that side of the field at all the entire game. So it's good to see Jalen Ramsey back and playing at a good level. But yeah, like I said, I don't see why the Chiefs are favorited in this game on a neutral site, other than just respect.
Yeah, I don't either. I love the Dolphins there.
Yeah, I'm actually gonna probably add Finn's money line to my card. I'm gonna be betting against this Chiefs team until they show me otherwise, and I like the under. Anything else?
Yeah. No, I'm right there with you.
Next game, LA Rams, Packers, complete stay away for me at least. I don't like either of these teams. I think Matty Stafford's probably going to be done for a little bit. I hate the Packers this year. They suck. So
I hate the Packers too.
I have absolutely no opinion on this game. I would advise everybody just not to bet on this game.
Yeah, who's the backup quarterback for the
I saw they signed someone
Win.
Yeah, I don't even know who that is. So, yeah, I don't know. But Jordan Love sucks. So I don't know.
Bad. He's so bad. Yeah,
the only thing, and they're a bad coach football
hate
team.
This game.
And the Packers are a poorly coached football team. If you were to
and they just traded away Rasul Douglas.
Yeah, if you were to think away, one, I don't understand why this would be 3 points, but maybe a get right game for the Packers. They're due for one, so maybe that, but I wouldn't take it.
Yeah, there's absolutely no way in hell I'm betting on this. Every time that I've bet on the Packers, they've lost, so I have started betting against them. Obviously, if Matt Stafford's playing, which he's not going to, I would throw my left leg on the Rams, but I'm staying. I wouldn't touch this game with a 30-foot pole.
Yeah, I agree. Next game. This game for me personally would definitely depend on where the public lies on this game. My initial thought is, and I said it earlier in the pod, I think we start to see the Texans slip a little bit from an efficiency standpoint and a wins-loss standpoint. I think they start losing these games. So right away, I would probably hit the Bucks money line.
The Bucks offense is just so bad. It's just painful to watch. And they have good players on that side of the football. They just can't put it together.
Yeah, I mean, you could have said
I think this ends up being close. I think it is I think 3 is probably the right line, and I think I would probably. I mean, I think you're kind of right with the fact that the Texans probably start to fall off here a little bit. So I think I would probably I wouldn't take the Bucks money line, but I would take the Bucks points.
Yeah, I mean, I think we sat here last week and I said Bucks plus 8.5 was a good line, and everybody was like, well, the Bills are going to shit pup the Bucks. The line closed at 10. The Bucks went out and covered within a touchdown. So yeah, I think that if you would have told I know it wasn't pretty. I'm not saying it is going to be pretty, but I think if you would have told anybody that the Bucks would have kept it within a touchdown of the Bills, I think everybody would have told you were a liar. So kind of the same thought process here. I just think the Bucks can beat this team.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not going to pick a team. I'm not going to pick a winner on this, but I would take +3.
Yeah, this next game is bad. Commanders versus Pats.
Horrible.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really have an opinion on it. The only thing that I could probably sit here and think is Josh Harris is the owner of the Commanders. He's the owner of the Sixers. He was the embodiment of trust the process and tanking. Think that the few moves that they made today indicated that they weren't in win now mode. I think that this is Riverboat Ron's firing game. I think that Bill Belichick probably comes out and tries to handle business. I don't know if I think 3.5 is a ton of points, but I do think the Patriots win.
I actually love 3.5 for the Pats. I think with all the moves that just happened, they lost their two best players on one of their best players on defense, another really, really good one. I don't think Sam Howell's going to come out here and look like Peyton Manning again. And the Patriots are starting to play a little bit better football. I love 3.5.
Nice. Okay. Chicago Bears Saints. Teabag is still the quarterback, and I think 7.5 is a ton of points for the Saints, but the Saints should win this game. I don't really have anything else.
Yeah, I think we saw their offense start to play a little bit better last week. And that defense is still good. I think they're going to probably end up giving him some problems. I would probably lean Saints -7.5 here. Nice. If there's a moment where you could end up getting it at like 7, or even if you want to buy a point at 6.5, I think that's a fair play too.
I like that. I like that for sure. The next game is the Vikings Falcons. I mean, Vikings obviously with a devastating blow at the quarterback injury. I know that they're rolling out the kid from BYU to start this week. I think until Josh Dobbs gets integrated into this offense and is the starter, I think it's probably fair to say that it's safe to fade the Vikings. I think that this line should honestly be a touchdown.
I agree with you. Who is the kid from BYU?
I don't know his name.
Do you know his name? Yeah,
no.
I couldn't think of it either. I mean, the only bet that I love and continue to love as long as Justin Jefferson is out is any receiving prop for Jordan Addison. I would probably stay away from that in this game just because I don't know anything about this starting quarterback. But I think that's probably a fair move to take him. To take Addison receiving.
I think once Dobbs gets in there, yeah, I don't see why not.
No, I'm just waiting for Dobbs to get in there. I don't know anything about this kid from BYU. Is it Zach Wilson's cousin?
No. Yeah. Next game, Arizona Cardinals, Cleveland Browns. I think this is shit pumping territory for the Arizona Cardinals, regardless of who the quarterback is for the Browns. I mean, Clayton Tune's their starting quarterback. I think that this line, I genuinely think this line could close around 10 points. So I think it's probably the Browns are probably a good teaser leg for this week, if anything. I probably won't bet on the game though.
Yeah, I think you're spot on with mentioning them as the teaser. I would like to see like what the collective sack line is for the Browns defense, because I think it could get ugly.
Like Browns, yeah, 6 sacks against them. Yeah, I mean, I like placing those bets. So
yeah, Myles Garrett maybe to have like 2 sacks at least. I think this could get very ugly. Also, I might take under 37.5 as a personal challenge.
I like that. I definitely like that.
I love this next game.
Yeah, Seattle Seahawks, Ravens, probably the best game on the slate other than the Cowboys, Eagles. It's Seattle going to Baltimore. Really weird tidbit that always sticks into my memory, and I always remember when the Seahawks are traveling to the East Coast is Pete Carroll and his staff have been doing this for an extremely long time, and it's always been talked about within the community that Pete has certain remedies that he has passed on to his players to deal with the 1:00 start times when they're going from the West Coast to the East Coast to be able to acclimate themselves. to playing at this time. So with that being said, I think I really love the Seahawks money line in this spot. I think 5.5 points is entirely too much for a Seahawks team who we both think is really good. I think that the Seahawks are fully healthy. They added a piece on defense this week. I just like the Seahawks to win.
Do you have that list of remedies that Pete Carroll dishes out by any chance?
I don't know.
I'm gonna need you to find those for me.
I will say I will look it up because it is something that's I've heard talked about for like years now, where it's always been like, well, Pete knows how to get these guys ready when they're going over to the East Coast. Like, there's some stat out there, we can probably find it if we want to currently, and about him coming to the East Coast and playing in these 1:00 games. I think that they're always competitive.
Yeah, that sounds accurate to me. I'm trying to look it up, but I don't think I'm going to be able to get it in time. But yeah, I'm right there with you. I think 5.5 is kind of a lot for two teams that are both very good. Like, I don't think the Ravens are that much better, if at all, better than the Seahawks. So 5.5 feels like a lot.
I think it should be 3.
Yeah, I expect maybe even 2.5. Honestly, I think I'm confused as to why it's 5.5, but nevertheless, I love the Seahawks plus 5.5. So
yeah, I mean, I think the thing that a lot of people think about is the Ravens defense has been scary good, just as good as the Browns, whatever. But that's probably where that respect comes into play, where the Ravens defense has been kind of really stout and have not given up many points. They did just give up a ton of points to the Cardinals, so it's hard to kind of remember that, but that's probably where that respect is coming from.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna see, like you said, this is probably the second. This is the second best game on this slate, so I think this is going to be a battle. I think this is going to be a great game to watch, and I am excited.
Next
I
game.
thought I just found this thing, but I'm not. Since never mind. I found an article that the headline is Pete Carroll travel ways fix Seahawks 10 a.m. game problem, but it's making me pay. Oh, no, it's not. Where is it? All right, hold on. He flies the Seahawks into any road city that is 2 or 3 times many NFL teams fly in a day before, get in and get out before any jet lag zone time. Not Carroll. For a Sunday Eastern kickoff, he practices at the usual mid-afternoon time on Friday at the team headquarters in Renton. Then the Seahawks fly into their game city. That means to Miami or New England, and a post-midnight check-in to the team's hotel, so be it. In Carroll's thinking, that's only 9 p.m. Pacific time to his players' body clocks. Then he keeps the Seahawks on their normal sleep times. They wake up at about 8 or so for a 1 p.m. Eastern game. They have breakfast. They take early or late buses to the stadium. They begin warm-ups on the fields at the same time they do for home games. And more often than not, way more often than Seattle used to, they win. So pretty much it just seems like he tries to keep these guys on the same internal clock as if they were playing out on the West Coast, which is a great move. And also, it's so weird that why did no other coach master this yet?
Well, Pete's been doing it, bro. Pete's been in the game for a really long time.
He's been the West Coast for his whole career.
So it's just something that he's probably picked up over the years. But that's always something that I've heard about the Seahawks when they come over and play these East Coast games. And like I said, it's always stuck in my brain. And you just found the article to confirm it. So there we go. That's why.
That might lead me to take Seahawks money line. Those guys are going to be flying around. I think this is a prove it game too. Like, hey, we're one of the best teams in the NFL, and we're going to come out here and smack you in the mouth.
It's the goal.
I'm calling Devin Witherspoon interception.
I love that guy.
Yeah, put it on the card.
Next game, Colts Panthers. I think this game should be a pick 'em, and I like the Panthers in this game. I just don't think that the Colts have much to be desired at this point in time. Unfortunately, I think I think that losing Anthony Richardson over the course of an entire season is kind of going to start playing some mental warfare with them. And I think that you see Minshew kind of throw up stinkers every now and again. And it would just make complete sense for him to do it against the Panthers because the Panthers suck. So I just think that I like the Panthers in this spot.
Yeah, I would have loved to see Anthony Richardson match up against Bryce Young, but we're going to have to wait until next year for that. I think I'm also going to be taking the Panthers out of respect. Coming off a big win, vibes are high, and I don't think the Colts are that good. So
yeah, I mean, the Panthers switching play callers last week was definitely an indicator for them to kind of take a step in the right direction for this season. They're off the bye. I think that win last week was a big confidence booster, and I think that they try to go and sneak one out at home against the Colts. Next game, probably your favorite game on the slate. Cowboys Eagles, dude. I don't know, and this might be really like I think I'm an extremely unbiased fan. I just think that the Eagles win this game, no problem.
I think it's going to be a battle. I do think they end up covering this game as well. I think when they go to Dallas is probably when they drop the game versus the Cowboys, but I don't know, man. They're playing good ball right now. It's at home. Although Jalen's knees bothering him, he had a hell of a game last week. So they also put a phenomenal game plan together last year. Obviously, different team, but they put a phenomenal game plan on offense together last year to sort of minimize Micah Parsons' pass rush, and I like them to kind of do that again this year.
Man, let me just keep it plain and simple with you. Micah has not been a key factor
quiet
on this defense, and I don't think that a lot of people like talking about that, but let's just call it as it is. I think that this Cowboys team isn't very good. If they're not able to have 15 turnovers and 2 defensive touchdowns and like the luckiest game ever, like game script wise for them, they struggle. I think that the Eagles take care of the football against the Cowboys. They understand the significance of this game at home in front of their home crowd. Man, I'm telling you right now, I could be extremely wrong, but I think the Eagles win this game fairly easily.
Yeah, I like the Eagles to cover here. I still can't figure out the Kenneth Gainwell situation. I don't know why they keep giving him the football in the red zone in the most important 20 yards of the football field. It happened again, and he fumbled the football, and then he went on his phone at halftime and was fucking DMing a fan, and nothing. He came back out the second half, got just as many touches. Sirianni comes out and says, oh, he knows that he was wrong by doing that, and he still gets to play. Nothing. It's so frustrating. He's not. I don't understand why they think he's some type of bruiser. He weighs like 200 pounds, and Swift is like right at 200 pounds, and he's better than Kenny Gainwell at everything involving the running back position. I don't know what the fascination is with him. I understand wanting to give Swift a breather here and there, but I cannot wrap my head around why Kenny Gainwell gets the ball in the red zone 75% of the time.
Yeah, I think it's an easy explanation, and it's not an explanation that people like to hear. He's the superior pass blocker in the situation, and that's why they like to keep him in. So
in the red zone,
he is a better pass blocker than DeAndre Swift is. Yes, at any point on the field. So
I'm fine with
keeping him in
during the 20 to 20, but not 20 to end zone.
But keeping him in in those points of time where you might feel as if those high value
but they're running the ball
should go to DeAndre Swift. But when DeAndre Swift is lined up in the backfield, it's kind of predictable about like what's going on. So kind of keeping the defense on their toes and being like, okay, this is a passing down situation. They have Kenny Gainwell in. That's kind of like the thought process of doing it. And also on top of it, if you have somebody who I know that you don't like him, but who can kind of take some of the pressure off of DeAndre Swift over a very, very long season, you have to do it.
I am all in favor of giving him touches from one 20-yard line to another 20-yard line. When they get in the red zone, I need DeAndre Swift to get the football. I don't need Kenny Gainwell coming in there and rushing for half a yard and then fumbling the football every time he touches it in the red zone. When you have a guy in DeAndre Swift who is getting in the end zone in the red zone, 80% of the time that he's in there, it's infuriating.
Yeah, and I also think I definitely understand your stance. But something also that you need to remember is Kenny Gainwell clearly won over the coaching staff and won the running back position in the offseason. DeAndre Swift obviously has come in and has blown away all expectations and has been balling, but just something to kind of think about from their perspective.
I get it.
And it's a long season.
It is, and I'm fine, like I said, with having him in to give DeAndre Swift the rest here and there. But it just feels like every time the Eagles get to the red zone, it's fucking Kenny Gainwell in there.
Yeah, I get it. I understand your frustration, but
whatever. I'm gonna try and get over it, but it's not gonna happen. But I will try.
Eagles, just trying to give some
-3.
Me trying to just give you some clarity in the situation and calm you down.
I know it gets me fired up.
Next game, don't want to spend a ton of time on. Giants Raiders. Don't care about it in any way, shape, or form. I think it's an absolute dog shit game. Tommy DeVito. Actually, Daniel Jones is going to be playing.
He's back. Yeah, he's back.
Dude, I love this game. Giants are going to win this game, no problem. Giants money line. I think that we talked about it last week a little bit. I said I didn't want to talk about this game. Let me just talk about it real quick. We said that Daniel Jones kind of had to deal with the shitty part of the season, and now everybody hates him. Everybody thinks he sucks, like blah, 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 like this, that, and the third. You got Saquon back. Saquon's looking at form. Offensive line's kind of merging together a little bit. Their defense is kind of figuring things out. We talked about this last week. I think Daniel Jones is going to come in and actually run this offense pretty well. This is going to be the week where people realize that. I think the Raiders suck, so I'm going to take the Giants money line.
Yeah, I like the Giants here too. I would say my only talking point or concern area is if you're the Giants and you're starting to play a little bit better each week on the defensive side of the ball, and then the team goes and trades the best player on that defense, how does that make you feel as a collective? I feel like that's kind of a letdown area. I still think they win, but I know personally, if I was on that defense and you're like, dang, we're starting to kind of put it together. We're getting our starting quarterback back. And then all of a sudden they trade the best player on the defensive side of the ball. That's kind of sucks.
Well, think about it from the Giants front office perspective. You have an opportunity. You have an opportunity to get a second-round pick, and you have the quarterback locked up. And from the sounds of it, sounds like Saquon wants to be there long term, and he's willing to kind of take a hometown deal to stay in New York. You kind of have to do kind of stuff like that, unfortunately.
No, I get it. I totally understand from the front office perspective. I'm just saying, if I'm a player, that I'm kind of walking around damn, do they not? Do they not think we're any good, or what's happening? They're just got rid of our best player as we're trying.
Well, I would hope they know they're not good. But anyway, into the next game that we should spend time on is the Bills Bengals. I think
this is ugly.
I think the Bengals shit pumped the Bills.
I do too.
I think this is going to be the spot on prime time where everybody realizes the Bengals are back, and on top of it, everybody's going to realize the Bills are in deep trouble. So I think I absolutely love the Bengals in this spot to cover this, and I think by the time the game time rolls around, this is going to be around 3.5 points.
Did Rasul Douglas went to the Bills, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a decent pickup for them, but I don't think it's going to hold back Joe Burrow from going absolutely bonkers.
I also think that probably over the course of the season, it probably makes a little bit of a difference. I don't think it makes a difference in
This week.
4 days.
No,
5
not
days.
at all. Yeah, I love the Bengals here. I think they're gonna run it up.
Okay, perfect. I'm betting every single. I'm having a same game parlay for that game because it's gonna be fun to watch.
Same.
Next game, if the Chargers want to turn around this season, and we say this every week at this point, but if Staley wants to keep his job, you need to beat the Jets and you need to beat Zach Wilson. This Jets team has absolutely no business having the record that they have. Their defense is a major testament to that. Zach Wilson's terrible. I saw the national media actually start to take a little bit of a turn this week and be like, well, Zach Wilson's really coming around, like blah, 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 this, that, and the third.
He had one good drive.
The Giants had -9 passing yards last week, and they won by a field goal in overtime. Zach Wilson is absolutely terrible. If Breece Hall didn't have another out of his mind explosive play down the field where he can create something out of nothing, he's an unbelievable playmaker. They lose that game, no problem. They got absolutely lucky last week. I think the Chargers should come out and handle business at -3.
Yeah, I think so too. I do think we might end up seeing another solid performance out of Breece Hall. I think they have to lean on somebody on that offense because it can't be Zach Wilson. So I think they should probably just turn around and give the ball to Breece Hall as many times per game as they can. But I'm right there with you. Like, the Chargers do need to win this game, and I think they kind of need to win it like provingly, if that's even a word.
Convincingly.
Yeah, same difference. But I mean, at the end of the day, we were talking about this. The Chargers feel like they're way better than they actually are. I don't know if the Chargers are realistically that good of a team, but they have all of the guys in order to be a good team. And this kind of goes back to what I mentioned earlier about like how social media can't separate the art from the artist in terms of, oh, well, this team feels like they're actually good, but they're not. And that's how I feel about the Chargers. I can never figure out if they're actually good. I think Justin Herbert's good, but that thumb injury is not helping him. But
it's his middle finger.
Middle finger. I think he just needs to go out and play. I think they need to win this game by 2 scores for me to feel good about it.
Yeah, I agree. I would like to see them win this game. I think what I saw a stat when the defense gives up less than 21 points, Justin Herbert's like 16-3 or something like that. Like a ridiculous statement. When you get into those shootout territories where you're asking Justin Herbert to essentially be Superman, let's just call it as it is. There's not many teams in the NFL where their quarterback, when you ask them to be Superman, is going to show up and be able to do it. I mean, it's a big ask to ask. I mean, there's really not much more to it than that. And when you have to do that to your quarterback, it allows the defense to kind of have a little bit more of an advantage, and for the quarterback to have a ton of risk on his hands as to having to create to be able to come back and win the game. So yeah, I think that if the defense can come out and show up against Zach Wilson, dude, I think it's a low scoring game, but I do think that the Chargers can cover 3 points.
They have to come out and cover 3 points. That's like, just looking at this game at face value, knowing what we know, this game should be a 5.5 point spread.
Probably.
So it is kind of concerning to me that it's that low.
Yeah.
But they got to go out there and they've got to win this game by more than 3 points. No ifs, ands, or buts.
Perfect.
But yeah, I think that wraps up the week.
Yeah, that wraps up everything. We covered a lot. This is the longest podcast to date, so let's wrap it up right now. I'll text you and I'll get this up soon.
All right, brother. Talk to you. Go Birds.
All right, see ya.